Hello gardener, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm harvesting a ton of different heirloom tomatoes from my garden, so I thought it would be a great time to do a big tomato review. I have 12 different varieties right here, so I'm just going to be talking a little bit about each one, slicing into it, and then giving it a taste test so you guys can learn a little bit more about these particular varieties. And if you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jara and I teach others how to garden and grow food. If you've been following me for some time, you all know that my favorite thing to grow are tomatoes. So I really enjoy doing tomato review videos and showing you guys all of the different kinds that I grow in my garden. So maybe this will help inspire you to try out some new varieties. And if you're interested in growing any of the same tomatoes that I grow here in my garden, I do have seeds on my website. All right, so let's get started with this tomato review. First up, I'm gonna start with this black cherry tomato. This is probably one of my top selling seeds on my website. A lot of people absolutely love this variety. It's super prolific. It is an indeterminate cherry variety. So this one is really popular because it just looks really cool. It has all these different colors in it, some dark purple anthracite shoulders right here, and then the rest of it is like a pinky kind of dark purple type of striping effect. So really unique and different kind of tomato. This is a cherry tomato, but it's definitely on the bigger side. It's considered a cocktail type of size cherry tomato. And there is one important thing that I have to say about this one. It tastes fantastic. It's very unique. It has like every single different kind of flavor profile that you can imagine in one little tomato, but you have to harvest it when it's absolutely ripe. So nice and soft when you push on it with your fingers. Make sure the coloration is really pronounced. At the bottom is a really good deep pink and red color. If you harvest them too early, they kind of have a funky flavor. I don't know how to describe it besides that it kind of tastes like acidic to me in an odd way. But once these are totally ripe, the flavor is completely different. It's much sweeter. It tastes better. So I'm going to go ahead and slice into this one. And just so you know, it's also super productive. Like the trusses of fruit on these plants are insane. They're loaded. It is an indeterminate, so the vines can get like about 10 feet at the end of my season. They typically are anywhere between 8 to 10 feet long. So kind of a bigger size cherry tomato plant. That's what the inside looks like. It's just like a pinky red color. So good. Very sweet in flavor. So yeah, it's definitely a top seller for a reason. Again, this one is called Black Strawberry. Up next is a tomato. This seed was sent to me by one of my viewers and subscribers, so thank you so much if you're watching from this. This one is called Salon, if I'm saying that correctly, and it's super cute. It produces these tiny little ruffled, not cherry tomatoes, because this is not a cherry tomato, but like a mini little ruffled beefsteak, so to speak. And the plants are just loaded with tons of these. So really cute. If you're looking to have like a cool, unique looking cocktail mix of tomatoes to put like on your salads or garnishes and stuff like that. I believe this is an indeterminate tomato. The plants are also really loaded and they're not too big. Like my plant right now is probably 3 or maybe 4 feet tall and just loaded in tons of these tomatoes. So early producing as well. Really good all around tomato flavor. It's very savory and juicy. This would be great on your salads and things like that. So very good flavor. Thank you so much for sending me this seed. I definitely will probably be growing this every single season. And again, the name for this one is Salon. Up next, we have another tomato that's new to me this season. This one is called Queen of the Night. It kind of looks similar to Black Strawberry, but the tomatoes are a little bit bigger and the coloration is just more darker. It's more like the purple anthracite shoulders with a deeper red and orange kind of striping effect to it. And these plants are really small. My plant is only like 2 feet tall and it's already producing. So pretty good choice if you have like a smaller garden or maybe you want to try growing tomatoes in like a 5-gallon grow bag. But anyways, they just look really cool. Like you'll never see tomatoes with these kinds of colors or striping at the grocery store. And this dark purple color here is due to an increased amount of anthocyanins. That's actually an antioxidant compound. And there's a lot of tomatoes that have this kind of purple coloration because of that. And this purple coloration tends to deepen as the fruit is exposed to the sun. So if you're growing this in full sun, the color will get even darker. If it's in some shade or maybe hidden between some tomato leaves, then the coloration will be a little bit lighter. But anyways, let's slice into this one. The inside's like a pinky red color. Very, very good. What I taste is like sweetness and acidity. So just a really good all around tomato, I think, for like a saladette size or something like that. And I've done several of these tomato review videos because I really enjoy watching those kinds of videos myself when I'm trying to like figure out the differences between the thousands of different heirloom tomato varieties there are. And it does give me a lot of inspiration. So if you enjoy these videos, please let me know. And if you have any favorite heirloom tomatoes that you would like me to try out, please comment below as well. I'm always looking for new ideas. All right, so next is a very highly anticipated tomato, probably like my favorite one out of this entire platter here, and that is the Black Beauty tomato. So talking about the whole anthocyanins coloration on the tomatoes, Black Beauty is the darkest colored heirloom tomato that you can possibly find. As of when I'm doing this video, there has now been a GMO purple tomato that was released last year in 2023 that is darker than this, but it's a GMO tomato, and I'll have to do a whole nother video about that one in particular. But the difference between this Black Beauty heirloom tomato and the purple tomato GMO is that this is really dark on the outside. Its skin gets really dark in color. I have harvested some of these that are completely dark purple. This one was hidden underneath some leaves, so the bottom portion here is still like a dark red color. But when you slice into this one, and I'll show you guys, the inside looks red. It's like a red tomato. So the difference between this Black Beauty and the purple tomato GMO is that the purple tomato is purple from outside and inside. So the skin is completely dark purple, and when you slice into it, it's also deep purple in there. Again, I'll have to do a whole video about that one and why it turned out that way. But this is Black Beauty. It's an heirloom. So if you're looking for like just the darkest heirloom tomato possible, this is the one I recommend to you. And I grow this one every single tomato season. I do put seeds for this one on my website, and they always sell out super quickly. Like, I don't have enough seed to last until the next season when I grow it again. So if you want to try this one, make sure you get seeds as soon as you can. So let's slice into this one. There you go. It's also kind of like a pinky red color. A lot of people actually say that this one is like their top tasting tomato flavor wise. And as I'm tasting tomatoes, I often refer to like flavor profiles. That's just how I do it. So I'm sorry if that sounds a little funny, but I kind of think of tomatoes in terms of being savory, earthy, umami kind of flavor, even sometimes sweet, fruity, and acidic. That's pretty much how I kind of describe them. So let's taste test this Black Beauty tomato. Very good. Sweet and savory right off the bat. The texture is also really nice too. It's soft without being mealy, which is really great. And it's juicy and flavorful. I would love to make a sandwich with this. So again, this one right here is called the Black Beauty. Up next, we have a tomato that I've been wanting to try to grow for a long time, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to finally do it. This one is called Florade. It was developed by the University of Florida to be a very heat-resistant type of tomato that supposedly will continue producing even in the high heat of summers here in Florida. One thing I have to notice about this tomato is that its skin is perfectly smooth, no cracks. Cracking is a big issue for me here in Florida because we have such extreme weather. One day will be cool, one day will be extremely hot, one day it'll be really, really dry, and then all of a sudden we'll get pouring rain. And that causes a lot of different tomato cultivars to just crack. I have an example here. This one is Owens purple, but you can see this crack here formed. There's really nothing you can do to avoid your tomatoes from cracking besides trying to grow it in conditions that are consistent, like regulating the soil moisture and stuff like that. But regardless, here in Florida, our temperatures fluctuate so much, there's really nothing I can do about that. So I quite often get cracks on my tomatoes. That doesn't mean they're bad. You can still eat them. And if you try growing it in your garden, you might have different results if your area is just a little bit more temperate and normal, so to speak, not so extreme. And you'll probably get beautiful, perfectly smooth, round tomatoes. So anyways, back to the Florade. These are kind of a small slicer tomatoes, what I would call this. The skin is super smooth. It kind of looks very similar to a tomato that I would buy in the grocery store. I also noticed they're pretty stiff. Like, they have to hang on the plants for quite a while before they're completely like ripen up and soft. But I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a taste test. Actually, I think this one's a little bit softer, so I'm gonna try this one instead. This tomato definitely was bred for production, like just trying to get Floridians to be able to grow tomatoes during the summer. So bred more for production instead of flavor being the number one concern about it. So anyways, we'll see what it tastes like. It's all right. The texture is like a little bit on the crispy side, but again, I think that might be just because it could have used some more time to ripen up on the plant and soften up just a little bit, but very juicy, definitely way better than any tomato you'll buy at the grocery store. The flavor, I just get like hints of sweetness really from it. And another thing to note about Florade is the plants are pretty small. I was surprised. It's definitely no more than 2 foot and it's already starting to produce. So it is considered an early producer and another good compact choice for smaller gardens. Okay, so moving along, let's try out this Owens Owens purple that I was showing you guys before. This is one of my favorite tomatoes. I'm gonna tell you right now. Definitely in my top 3. I grow this one every season. It's considered a purple tomato. It's not dark purple like the Black Beauty here, but it has like a purplish red kind of look at the bottom of it. And then the shoulders tend to be kind of on the green side. So really unique looking tomato. It is considered a beefsteak. Most of the ones that I get from the plant are bigger. So these are kind of on the smaller side. I say it's one of my top favorites, not only because of flavor, but that plant just pumps them out. Tons and tons of tomatoes that are decent in size. And it's one of the last ones to finally die when the heat arrives, like at the end of June. So I'm gonna slice into it, just very productive. I'm always really happy growing this one. Here's what the inside looks like. It's kind of that purplish, reddish, pink kind of color. Very juicy. So good. It's really sweet and balanced and savory. Definitely one of my favorites. So if you're looking for a purple tomato that has decent heat resistance, try growing Owens purple. This is an indeterminate and the plants do get pretty big though. Expect like 8 to 10 foot or more vines. One more thing to note about Owens purple, this is a cross between Paul Robeson and Mortgage Lifter. I've always grown Paul Robeson. That's another one of my favorite tomatoes. So when I heard there was a cross with Mortgage Lifter, which is known to be a really big tomato, I just had to give it a try. So that's how I ended up growing this Owens purple. All right, so next we have a really uniquely colored tomato. This one is called Sart rolois. It's got the dark purple anthracyasin shoulders and the bottom is like a light creamy yellow color. So really cool, really striking look to this tomato. It is a beefsteak, indeterminate. The plants do get pretty big, anywhere between 8 to 10 feet as well. This is also one of my top selling seeds. These always sell out. So if you see it on my website, make sure you grab it. All right, so I'm gonna slice into this one. And a lot of people recommend this tomato if you're looking for a low acid tomato. I'm not a doctor or anything, but you know, people that can't eat tomatoes because of the acidity have tried this one and said it's okay. There is still some acidity in here, but just maybe not as strong as like a full-on red tomato or something like that. But this tomato is super meaty, barely has any like seed cavity space or gel. It's just pure tomato meat. The inside is completely like a pale yellow color. Since it's so meaty, it makes for a really great sandwich tomato. And let me taste this one. This is so good. This one right off the bat just tastes fruity and sweet to me. So really different than some of these other tomatoes we were trying here. It's more mild in flavor as well, but it still has like a good amount of like fruitiness to it. So really unique and different tomato. Again, you will never find a tomato this color at the grocery store. All right, so next I have a tomato that I absolutely love to grow because it just looks so cute. This one is called Cesaris canestrino di Lucca, if I'm saying that correctly. The story behind this one is that Chef Cesaris brought seed back from his hometown of Lucca in Italy. So that's what this tomato was named after. It is known to be a good sauce tomato. That means the inside is really dry, not so much water content and that kind of thing, or being very juicy for that matter, because it makes for a good sauce tomato. So we're gonna slice into this one. And the word canestrino means basket in Italian. So if you look at this, it's just kind of a unique lobe kind of tomato that reminds people of a basket. So slicing into it, it's just like buttery smooth. The inside does have some dry like cavity space in there, which is what you're looking for with the paste or sauce tomatoes. If you're making tomato sauce, which is one of the things that I do with a lot of the tomatoes that I grow, you want dry tomatoes. So they tend to not be the best for fresh eating and that kind of thing. But when you cook with them, their flavor really intensifies and it makes for good sauce. And when you're canning a lot of tomato sauce, you also don't want a lot of extra water content because that just means you have to spend even more time cooking down the sauce to remove that extra water. But let's give it a try anyways. So it's good. It just has a lot of like savoriness to it and not much more. It is a little bit dry. It's not as juicy as some of these other tomatoes. Doesn't taste bad though. Still definitely better than any grocery store tomato you will buy. But this tomato really shines when you're making sauce or paste. Here's another one, pretty decent size, and it feels heavy as well. Again, the name of this one is Cesaris canestrino di Lucca. And I will put all the names of all these tomatoes in the description below as well. All right, so we just have a couple more left. This is another one that was the first time I've ever grown it. This is called Berkeley tie-dye. It's pretty popular, indeterminate heirloom tomato. Lots of people love to grow this one. It has a really unique coloration. It's almost like a dark olive green color with red stripes on it, or like a brick red kind of stripe. So really cool and unique look. I believe it is also considered a black or purple tomato. It's an indeterminate. The plants do get pretty big. Slicing into it, it just has like a deeper dark kind of red color. And this one's really good. It has like a punch of acidity followed by like some savoriness to it. So real interesting flavors here. Really good. I would definitely make this into a sandwich. And this is considered a beefsteak tomato. These two that I've harvested here are a little bit on the smaller side, but the plant is loaded with a ton more that are much bigger than this. All right, so we have 3 tomatoes left. Let me start with this one right here. This one is called Orange Accordion. Accordion because of its unique ruffle pleated look. And this tomato is orange when it's fully ripe. I may have picked it a little too soon. I'm not really sure. The bottom is completely orange, soft, ripe. It's just the top here that's still a little bit on like a lighter yellow kind of color, but we'll taste it anyways. And this one is pretty famous because the tomatoes get very big and massive. So this one is on the smaller side. My plant has just started producing, so maybe I'm gonna get some bigger ones, but really unique look with all of these pleats. And the inside is super meaty. You barely see any seeds in there. It kind of reminds me of Kellogg's breakfast, if you've ever grown that one, which is also one of my favorites. It's just super meaty, really good for sandwiches. It's always such a good grower here in my garden. This has a very unique flavor. It's just very fruity and mild. The meat inside is also kind of on the dry side. It's not so juicy, which is interesting because a lot of people say this tomato makes for some really good sauce. You're not gonna get a red sauce out of it. It would probably be like a deep yellow orange color like the tomato. So that would just be real interesting to try out. But I could see why a lot of people like it for sauce because it is on the dry side. Next, I have a tomato called Mocha cherry. I think this is one of the popular cherry sized tomatoes that a lot of people like to grow. It kind of looks like a purplish brown kind of color, which I know that might sound a little weird. Definitely considered a black, cherry tomato. And the size of the tomato is pretty consistent with being like a larger type of cherry. I'm actually growing this one in this garden tower right here. And you can see there's a bunch of other trusses here loaded with more fruit. This plant is definitely like 2 feet tall or so. And it's already produced a bunch of these cherry tomatoes. All right, so let's taste this one. The inside's like a dark red pink color. Really good, very sweet. Not what I was expecting with these like dark purplish brown kind of tomatoes. They tend to just be very savory, but this one's really sweet, really good. That would be great in a mix of like little cherry tomatoes for salads. All right, and our last tomato. This one is called Fat Jack. I believe it's an indeterminate, but it only gets like 2 feet tall. It comes from Russia and is used as a production tomato over there, which surprises me that such a small plant would be considered a production tomato. But apparently it produces a lot of tomatoes per plant. I consider this like a small slicer type of tomato, and I'm actually growing it right here on the bottom tier of this green stock garden tower. It's a short plant, so it makes a great candidate for something like this. The leaves are really wispy, and normally the tomato cultivars with wispy leaves don't do too well in my Florida garden. That's just what I've noticed, but I got some production off from it, so let's give it a try. It basically looks like your standard red grocery store tomato, just on a smaller size. The inside is nice and red and also looks really juicy. Really good, really interesting flavor. You have sweetness, acidity, savoriness, very good like classic tomato flavor. And again, what attracted me to growing Fat Jack was the plant size. I was looking for lots of different smaller size plants, whether they be micro dwarfs, dwarfs, or even just standard tomatoes that are just shorter in size to fill up in this garden tower. And I'm so happy with the results. They're all growing fantastic in here. All right, so I've tried all of these tomatoes, and hopefully that gave you all lots of ideas and inspiration for maybe some tomatoes you would like to try growing in your own garden. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. That helps my channel out more than you know. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.